That was just a couple of days ago. I was thinking like I was bummed out because I was supposed to be at WonderCon this weekend, and man, it'd be cool if somebody just kind of did a little Zoom con thing. And then I thought, well, I guess you're somebody. So,
I guess I am.
well, I mean, me, I reached out to some people, and I've been kind of overwhelmed with how many people thought it was kind of a cool idea. So,
Yeah, well, it's a super huge bummer for no WonderCon because I have Little Shop of Pins who does some Rocketeer licensing, and they are up a creek too, and we're trying to just push that online business because there is no live business right now, which is sad.
yeah. Um, Again, I think we're streaming on. I think we're live now. So once again, that's Little Shop of Pins. We've been doing some wonderful stuff. T-shirts with Dave's art. And
Yeah, they've been a lot of fun to work with. I think we've had a pretty good rapport. They actually said I was easy to work with, which is nice. Yeah, I was lucky to fall into that one. They're good peeps for sure.
it's actually been a really interesting time to be a Dave fan, a Rocketeer fan, especially. Um, Kind of across the board, just really interesting products. Obviously, the new Disney cartoon for the kids, and um, the spirit is alive and well, and it seems kind of more prolific than it has been, since he left us.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, it's. I guess it's great that it hasn't died down. I'd love to see more comic book licensing done. That's kind of a slow thing to get. It's like getting the locomotive started. It just takes a really long time.
Yeah.
And Disney has the absolute monopoly on the licensing and merchandising right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. Obviously, I have the new figure that just came out. It's very impressive, and I'm expecting the Diamond has just released some statues and stuff as well. One question I kind of have: do you remember, like, when Dave first saw footage from the film, and like it kind of occurred to him that it was actually finally happening? Did he ever talk about? Do you remember kind of like how he was feeling in that time?
Um, I don't recall him actually talking about seeing. I mean, he was on the set almost daily for a lot of the filming, so I know that he saw the end of the day dailies. But I know that given all the difficulty he had with Disney, he was happy with how it turned out. He was happy that it turned out to be kind of a sweet film. They did a really good job with it being a period piece. I know he was happy with the end product. I think he just lamented that it had to be Disney that did it.
It is just a really special movie. It still holds up. My kids have loved it. So I think all of us as Rocketeer fans can attest that it was pretty special and lucky the way it
Yeah.
all kind of came together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And I think the Joe Johnston edition was great. And Joe really fought hard to even get Dave to be on the set. Like, they didn't want Dave on the set at all. They kind of wanted him to sign the contract and go away. And Joe said, no, we need him. He needs to be here. So I am not super well read on Joe Johnston and all the films he's done. I know that everybody thinks he's spectacular. I view him simply as he was an advocate for my brother. He fought hard for him. And that's, I think, what I appreciate most about him was just he knew what he needed and he fought for it, and that was Dave. So
That's awesome. Just kind of flip through this a little bit, and I don't know if you have any funny stories, anecdotes.
Flipping back to the go back the other way. Sorry, I don't know where you are in the book. There we go. Yeah, that is one of my absolute favorite covers. It's just, I just look at that and go, I love this. I love it. And I don't know what you would call it. It's not a motor scooter because it's on air, but that is just the coolest thing. That is the coolest. Yeah, that is one of my favorites. That and Mr. Monster, ironically. It's got so much spirit. And someone had bugged Dave for years, wanting to buy the Mr. Monster original. And Dave was like, no, I'm not going to sell it. I like the dog. Dave was quirky and in particular in what he liked and wanted. And he wasn't willing to sell that one for apparently because he liked the dog. Maybe that was a lie. Maybe it was just an excuse, but that was the excuse he gave for not selling the piece. So
I can speak as an artist that it is sometimes just those little things that you really feel like you nailed. You know, the rest of the piece can be whatever, but it's those little things that kind of stick with you and become hard to let go of, because I'm not particularly precious with a lot of my art, but I have my own little dogs that, you know, I hold on to.
Now, the Aurora original story that Dave did, I remember him drawing that. I was probably about 5 when he was working on the original Aurora story. And I remember just going up into his room and just watching him on his artboard, just working away. And I don't remember how long it took him, but that one in particular, I remembered watching him do. He would bring certain Rocketeer storyboards or comic boards for Christmas, and he'd be working at the kitchen table at Christmas time, and I'd sit there and watch him do his inking and his blue pencils, and that was a lot of fun just to watch the process. I couldn't tell you which pages I watched. I just remember that I watched a lot. And the interesting thing about that piece right there, I have hundreds and hundreds of Polaroids. He really liked Polaroids. And it's this Polaroid of a model in that exact same pose. And it was like, I know that pose. And then I got to rifling around. It was like, oh, that's where that came from. So it's funny to find these just photos of models, maybe just a certain gesture or something. And it's like, oh, that looks really, where did that come from? I know this. And then, you know, to rifle through. I did one recently of Betty's bath, and it was like, oh, that's Betty's bath. You know, totally the model looked nothing like Betty, but the body fit, you know, the pose was exactly it. And it was like, wow, that's really cool. And that face to me looks just like his ex-wife, Charlene. To me, that's her face. He may say that wasn't her, but to me, that looks just like her. And again, more of those, I have modeling pictures of some of those poses right there that he just, it's so amazing that he can just take a photo and put that body in there with somebody else's head on it. It's really kind of magical.
Was he so was he doing photo ref like very early on? Like, was that something that like he learned like in high school?
I don't know that it was necessarily high school. Well, I mean, I know that he would like look at comic books or Frazetta art and, you know, do the same thing side by side. I think he always used some sort of reference, whether it was a photo or another piece of art, there was always a reference there. Yeah, as far as actually taking Polaroids of models and things like that, I think that came in later 70s, early 80s, when women started seeing what he could do and wanting to be a Dave Stevens model. And that was a thing. Women wanted to be a Dave Stevens model.
How early on was like the Johnny Quest pages that are kind of famous for getting torn apart? He was like 14 or 15, wasn't he?
You know, do I know that story? What was that story?
It was like a very early submission that he sent, I believe. Alex Toth went through and critiqued the whole thing, and I believe it was like 15, or it was before he was working with the Hanna-Barbera.
Okay.
But as far as I know, like that's some of the earliest known work, and it's kind of like a famous, like in art circles, of the scathing review he got.
Well, maybe that's one that didn't get back to the family. I don't know. And if it was that age, well, let's see. Dave was 16 when I was born.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it's possible that that's a story that just hasn't reached me yet. And it's, yeah.
I'll dig through and find those. Somebody on the Stevens forum, Dave Stevens forum, or Facebook groups got to have them. But I'll find them and make sure you.
Yeah, that would be cool. I love hearing stories about Dave, I'll tell you that.
At Spectrum 3 in Kansas City years ago, I had the pleasure of being a fly on the wall with Steve Rude and Mark Schultz. And they were just gushing over Dave's work. I mean, going into brushes and inks, and to see these two titans, like, just, they're like Al Williamson and Dave Stevens. That's it. That's the end of the end of the road. And
that's funny.
there's a they don't call that the book Brush with Passion for nothing. There's just a real energy and life in his lines that is, it can't be replicated. It's
No.
in the man. And you really saw it come through. In every piece over his whole career. It was just, he never stopped leveling up.
No, and when he was humble enough to say, okay, I'm not going to do the computer animation. That's not me. That's not what I want to do. I'm a hands-on guy. For him to say, I need to learn to paint now. I need to go back to school, in the 90s. And he mastered the painting too. Like, some of the stuff he did was just phenomenal. I only wish he was around to continue and see what else he could have done, but yeah, the stuff he did, once he figured it out, because he really had kind of this block. He wasn't happy with the technique that he was being taught. He couldn't pick it up. And then finally he tried something else and it just clicked, and he was finally happy with the work he was doing with painting.
Yeah,
And the
So,
Mimi,
wait for it.
love the Mimi stuff. Oh my word. Love the Art Nouveau vibe, the old world Paris. Yeah, that was a story that he could never get off the ground, but there were so many things in it that were just, I don't know, it spoke to me. I just loved it because he gave me a love for Art Nouveau. And just kind of the old world Paris, old world European architecture. And he kind of combined all of that into this Mimi story that unfortunately just never panned out. So I don't know, maybe someday we can get the million pages of notes and storyline and make it something. But the art that he did for that, I mean, look at that. All the sheen to the leather is just incredible. Just incredible. And actually, I do have a piece here from the Mimi. Let me grab it here. This is one of the scenes. So this is Mimi in the catacombs under Paris. And you can see above her is kind of one of the villains in the movie. But just the way he could capture everything just right with the colors, the shading. I just love it. And I don't think that this piece, it might have been published in Brush with Passion or something, but it's not a common piece that people see.
I had never seen it, so you just posted it the other week.
Did I post that one?
I think so, yeah, a few weeks ago. I want to say you posted a shot of it.
Yeah, that one. I've been through the catacombs. I remember Dave going through the catacombs and coming home for Christmas and just being so in awe of just the magnitude of it and the artfulness of, millions of skulls and bones arranged artfully. And he was really affected seeing all the infant bones also. I think he was kind of it was this haunting beauty of it. And I think that's why he wanted to incorporate the catacombs in the story.
It's a place I've certainly always been interested to go see.
Yeah,
Hope I
definitely
get the chance.
Definitely a must see. If you're into kind of odd, it's not for everybody, I will tell you that.
There's
So do you
Betty.
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna add really quickly for those watching and listening that might not be familiar that Dave was also really instrumental in finding Betty Page and getting her some credit, that towards the end of her life, that I think a lot of people don't realize or aren't familiar with that part of Dave's life in the Rocketeer story.
Yeah, and ironically, I pulled. You asked me for like a little anecdotal story, so I have a stack of cards from Betty to Dave, whether it was a birthday card, a thank you card, Christmas cards, and this one was pretty cool. Let me grab it here. So this is her signature felt tip pen. She always used felt tip pen, and it's just a simple birthday card. So there's words, but it says, this is dated 1996, Dear Dave, blah, 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 blah. And then it says at the bottom, I wish you 59 more happy birthdays. Don't be greedy, that's enough. Thank you for being the best friend anyone could ever have. I love you oodles, Betty. So
Wow.
yeah, right? So she knew what he'd done for her. And I don't think that most people who used her image and maybe did pay her, no one else had that relationship. She didn't view anybody else like that, the way she did Dave. And she loved him. And like every card, she gushes about how appreciative she is of him and what he did for her. So very special relationship.
No, it really is. It's super inspiring. Yeah. You know, as a fan, just as an artist and a person, and how to treat people who inspire you. You know, it's Dave continues to inspire as the person he was, as well as his artistic legacy.
Mhm. Yeah, he had an interesting character to him that was very honest. He didn't want to hurt people. I think sometimes he wasn't honest enough with people as far as, your work's not that great. He would still encourage people, because he didn't want to hurt people. He wanted to encourage and not be the downer. And not crush someone's dreams. So he was always very encouraging of others.
I think that's important, especially now. I think there's a lot of people that have only dabbled, in art or music or, whatever their hobbies have been, that are really jumping into it. And I think it's an exciting time for art and music. I'm really excited to see what comes out of a bad situation, but
Yeah.
I can't stop believing that it's going to wind up for the best.
Yeah. Well, you can either waste your time watching TikTok videos, or you can seize this moment that you will. I hope it never is like this again, but this is the time to seize the moment and do great things, in all this alone time. For sure.
Right. That's what this is all about. And hopefully people get inspired. And thank you so much, Jennifer, for coming on, talking and joining us and sharing these stories and Dave's work.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You've been a tremendous support to me over the last few years behind the scenes, and I can't thank you enough.
You're welcome.
I wish the very best to you and your family.
Thank you.
Like to add. Otherwise, I'm happy to let you go.
Well, I did pull a few things if you'd like to see some more original art. If you have
Absolutely,
a few extra
please.
minutes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Hold on here. Let me grab a couple of things that are beside the table. I'm gonna kill that light. It was bugging me. Okay. So I have just a few things. This is the iconic Betty's Boudoir. Hopefully I can get a non-glare. There we go. There we go. I remember seeing the print, and then when I saw the original, it was like, wow, this thing's really small. I guess I just expected it to be this huge, whoops, there's more glare, huge piece, and it's small. It's very small. So it looks like the print that he made was the exact size of the original. I just like the soft, pretty colors that it has. This one, this has a piece of tissue paper over it, but this is, Rocketeer fans are going to know exactly what this is. And it's a fun piece. And this one did not wind up in the fire. And then here's the a lot of glare. Planet Comics one that we just talked about, so I won't keep that one up. And then this is the other iconic piece that Dave did, Rocketeer and Betty.
That
And-
I believe I got to see in Burbank.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And and how did he color this thing so perfectly?
For those who have,
There's no flaws in this piece. There's no whiteout.
yeah, for those who haven't seen the Dave's originals before, they are absolutely just flawless.
Yeah. Yep. This is just amazing. And then I did have the book of a small book here that was a little bit more manageable. This is the Jungle Comics one. I think that was one of the pages that you showed. And I love this one because you can see some of the faint blue lines. Do I have glare? I can't tell.
A little bit.
Looks a little heavy and bulky. Here's the Air Boy. Everybody's one of the other favorites is the Air Boy. I feel like I'm doing story time. This is not an original, but this was one of the covers he did of Johnny Quest. And this is, let's see, I'll do this one. See if I can get the glare off. This is tricky. See if I can just pull it. But this is another one that's, you know, a self-portrait of Dave. That was one thing that always tickled me was his main characters were always himself.
That one's one of my favorites.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's very unusual to see himself, depict himself as like a punk rocker. He did like the punk rock scene, but yeah, it's just interesting to see him in a totally different character. And here's the Mr. Monster. And the dog. I think that was kind of fashioned after the Little Rascals dog. Pete the pup. And this one's a nice piece. Can you see that?
That also, that's one of my all-time favorites too.
Yeah. What is it? Little Miss Sure Shot. And Dave always enjoyed lizards and frogs, toads. So of course he had to incorporate a lizard in the piece too. So there's always a little something of his that he enjoyed that he has to put in. Let's see what else we got here. This one I'm not going to take out. Hopefully you can see it. I don't remember her name, if this was the Miss Joni piece, but it's just this gorgeous piece that's so simple and yet so, and again, it's absolutely perfect. There aren't any mistakes on this that I can see. And I have the original photo somewhere. I've misplaced it. And this is a cute little piece that Doug Wildey did.
Was that published in the Rocketeer Adventures?
It might have been. I think it was. I think it was. So that's kind of what I pulled for today.
That is awesome. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. This is a lot of fun. Thank you for having me. And I hope that your weekend pans out and gives you some opportunities for the future.
Yeah, we're pretty loaded. You got a Greg Ruth coming up, and it's going to be a fun couple of days for me at least. So
Good, good.
Thank you again. I will be in touch. tell your family I said hello and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. You too. All right. You take care. Have a
You too.
great Friday.
You as well.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.